Good afternoon, and I'd like to call the Housing Committee meeting on August the 10th to order at 1:07 p.m. First on the agenda is the approval of this agenda, and can I ask if there's any late items? No? Okay. Recommendation that the Housing Committee meeting agenda for August the 10th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Malcolm? Siobhan? All in favor? That was easy. Approval of the minutes. Recommendation that the minutes of the Housing Committee meeting held on June the 8th, 2023 be adopted. And okay, Siobhan first. Okay. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, new business, secondary dwelling, open house follow-up. Sarah, take that away, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just a quick little follow-up for the committee. We did have a couple members of the Housing Committee were able to make it, which was fantastic. We also saw Councillor Beach there. She's in the photo. I don't know if she knows that. But it was a really good turnout, I felt, especially compared to some other open houses we've held over the last couple of years. It was a very festive atmosphere and there were lots of questions. People really took advantage of our guest speakers and took the opportunity to ask their questions and learn more about how they could go about adding a secondary dwelling like a coach house or carriage house to their property. So the guest presenters that were present were representatives from SASCU, Bayview Fine Homes, MRG Design, and Earthright Shelter. We had also invited Parkland Building Center and they had confirmed they would be able to come, but regrets they weren't able to make it in time. There was a lot of follow-up interest in the prefabricated types of units. So Earthright was one of our guests that represented manufactured. And then in terms of frequently asked questions, a lot of people were asking, like, can I finance this? Can I use equity already in my home rather than doing a down payment to be able to do this? And can we use the income they would generate from such a unit to support a mortgage in order to get a mortgage? So it was pretty interesting. And the answers to all these were yes. Yep, you can do all these things. And we do have the full-blown answers on our website. So yeah, that was the update. There's a couple pictures there.
It was a good event.
Yeah, it was a good panel of resource people you had there. That was great.
Yeah. And it was nice to engage because I was there and it was nice to have the conversations with those that came. They were truly interested in doing something or what could they do. So yeah, I thought it was well attended too.
Yes, I actually answered a lot of questions too for people who were, buying property and they were interested in, they knew we need a rental housing and they really wanted the opportunity to do that. And they're like, oh, this is the one, like, what can I do here? So yeah, it was really good turnout, lots of good questions.
Can I ask, have you had lots of inquiries since then? Like now that it's up on the website, are you still continuing to get some inquiries?
We do, yeah. We still get people asking if they can do them. Unfortunately, Stephanie's not here today, but she deals with a lot of our inquiries, generally speaking. And we do track them. So I could always check and see, but yeah. But
It's nice that people
had more, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say, I guess we just move along where we want to go through these now, right? So.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Through the chair. Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
So the EOI that the district put out for secondary dwelling plans. So that was issued back in April. It closed July 31st and we ended up with 10 submissions, which is I do have a few examples on here of what we received just in the slides, but there's more. Like each applicant, I guess we can call them, did submit several examples of their work. So some of them, you know, they might not have any of these small units in their repertoire currently, but they were interested in doing them. So some of their examples of their work are for built bigger units, but yeah. So this one's a prefab. I'm not 100% sure how this would work, but potentially we could purchase a model that could be named for us, and then because they'd have to go and buy this from the fellow. But we could have our own model potentially that's 100% ours, but it would depend on negotiations.
Would you like us to interject comments and questions while you're going through these?
I think I'm just going to quickly flash through
Okay.
these so there's something for people online to see.
Okay.
And then from there, if the committee wants to kind of go through the different ones, and it's optional if the committee wants to make a recommendation moving forward. So once I'm going to show you these, we'll talk about them. Moving this forward, we would need to go to say a committee of the whole with our engagement plan. So last meeting, the committee really wanted to do engagement on different options and find out, you know, what kinds of things people in the community liked. So from here, we'd go to the COW with our engagement proposal, and then from there, hopefully do engagement.
Would it go to the Planning and Development Committee and then COW?
I was going to give them an update and on just housing committee activities.
That's okay.
Would have an opportunity to see for sure, but ultimately we'd go to the committee of the whole, like all of council, for information. And if necessary, if say through that conversation, the committee of the whole decided that, you know, we should maybe only do engagement on a few of these plans, then perhaps we might go to council for a decision on which plans. Right, engagement on.
This, another comment? Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud because the planning committee might get upset if it goes to the committee of the whole without them vetting it first.
I was planning on showing them the info. I don't know that we're necessarily looking to make any recommendations at this point about specific plans, but if the committee felt strongly about some of them, they could make a recommendation. It doesn't mean that that's ultimately what we take forward for engagement. It's up to the committee.
Okay, so what you're saying is take it to committee of the whole, at least let them see the overview, recommend it, and then once we hone it down, then it goes to the development and planning department prior to hitting council for any kind of.
We're gonna give the planning and development committee an update next week.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool.
We'll go from there. But in terms of who's making the decisions, it'll always be at a council level.
All right. Okay, cool.
All right, so this one was the manufactured one from Earthright. Here was an example from Grant Architecture. This one was pretty neat. It's a 2-story. There's some really nice layouts in here. If you've had some time to kind of go through. This one was a little more unique, but also a nice layout. McDermott. This one's kind of the opposite of what you would normally anticipate for a coach house. This one's built into a slope. So it's actually inverted bottom and up. So the garage is up top and the unit is down the bottom with a level up behind the garage. It's interesting. This one's pretty cool too. This one is designed for infill, was specifically designed for a very skinny infill parcel in Vancouver. So it's really compact and it fits, so you can see it fitting down the side of a house somewhere. This one, the whole property, the buildings were stacked down the length of the property because it was so skinny, but again, has a nice, really nice layout. It seems to be ample space. I would imagine this one's a bit bigger. It might be a touch too big.
Yeah, it was a family, and then I think when I read the details on that one, and then they suited something out the back, and they had separate entrances, and they took advantage of the entire lot.
Yeah, there's
length
things in the interior.
Yes, yeah.
But this one was the one that was more sort of tailored to what would fit for us. This example was interesting as well. I don't know if you can see, it's got this sort of sloped side. So the garage on the bottom down one side, and then you've got like this interesting angular space. So it makes for a very interesting building and probably conserves some square footage so it stays in under the maximum.
Yeah.
So that's what I had for examples. And then,
Okay.
yeah, if you guys want, we can go through the whole PDFs that are attached to the agenda. Because there are other examples, but it would be, I'm curious, if you were to pick three,
Oh,
which ones do you like the most? Just out of curiosity.
I'm gonna say I kind of like this Sturgis one. One, because it gives the property owners a garage space. It also takes maybe advantage of a unique shaped lot, right? Where you can follow, it's just outside the box thinking. And I think it's probably effective use of the land.
Yeah, the unit itself seems pretty good too. It seems pretty open and airy on the top, which is nice in terms of livability. And then even on the bottom. I mean, this particular one has a lot of windows along the bottom for the smaller space. Affordability, that might not be a component. You know, if we were to purchase plans from, we might have something kind of have it redesigned so that it met our affordability criteria to build it.
Yes, I'm gonna say the affordability part of this in some of the designs is like when you've got a 700 square foot little studio and they're putting in 2 bathrooms, like a powder room and it's like the affordability of that starts to shift. Because a 1 bathroom with a, 36-inch door, more accessible with laundry suite and storage maybe makes better use of the space, but I know they're trying to be creative and.
Yeah, well, and these weren't designed specifically for us.
Right.
We definitely, once someone was selected, then we work with them to hammer out and make sure it meets criteria for affordability.
I also like actually I like the Earthright, your sample. Only because they've sort of showcased different roof lines and how it fits in with the current homes and residents. Say you've got a home in the Tree Streets and you've got like a simple gable roof, not a high end. They've done that. They've also done the little more contemporary, just shed style roof.
Yeah, McDermott they've got an example like that I didn't put on the slide. That has different roof lines on one kind of design.
Yeah. I like that one that you've got up there because it takes advantage on a sloped lot. So they've kind of thought that through and figured that out. So I kind of think that was smart and that could easily be scaled down to.
Might have to be flipped for, like, I think most of our lots are flat, generally speaking.
Well, but if you were to do it in Bayview, like say if Bayview Estates had the capability of having one, I think there was somebody at the open house that asked that question. Maximizing the lot coverage, because I think they had an extra and yes, it's expensive place to build, but
I don't see them ever having a detached unit like that on Bayview. It's so steep. It would probably all
you'd have to add on. Yeah.
And I think I think anything with a flat roof too is not really feasible in our snow, think shoveling boats.
Yeah.
Anything, that, so. The only thing about a lot of these designs is I think they're coming off the coast. They're not so much.
Right.
Well, even on the coast.
Earth radius.
Make any sense on the coast.
Still.
Yeah. True. And I mean, it's not like they can't engineer or draw that up, wrapped it up so that it's got a sloped roof.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? That's easy changeable. It's more like the footprint and
Floor plan.
and the footprint on the,
I think you're right there. This one's pretty cute. With like a loft master bedroom.
But that build was $1 million, I think, too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't look at those prices. Partially that's building material definishing, right?
Right.
So a lot of these, like in the letters that went along with this, they're like, oh, well, this was actually all designed for step code 4, and which would on average be this much a square foot. We're confident that if it was designed for step code 3, which is what we asked for in our EOI, they're like, we're confident we will meet that $200 to $250 a square foot value. Yeah, they just have to change some of the construction materials.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, in some cases, there's engineered that stuff going on like this. You probably need like engineered beams and stuff that might not be affordable. So like some of these, it's same with this, like this roof and the way that cover, that patio cover is like, that's an added cost.
For sure.
So there'd have to be some edits.
Yeah.
To bring it into scope. So I think it's more about, whether or not someone has the qualifications to do what we need them to do. And then kind of come in within our budget for actually buying the plant.
Yeah. When does step code 4 actually get fully adopted, or that we have to absolutely comply to it?
We're at 3 right now, an updated version of step code 3. So
Okay.
the new code, step code 3 is slightly different than it used to be, I guess. And then I'm not sure of the timelines. I'd have to go and look again to see what that progression was.
Okay. Because that will add a fair amount of cost to it.
Yeah, it's a couple of years out, I think.
Okay.
They're just transitioning to step code 3 right now.
Okay. Any other comments?
Go ahead.
I liked Earthright and Adaptive and the Skinny Vancouver House and Eden Valley Homes, those 4. I liked Earthright because they're local. Well, I believe Earthright's from Revelstoke.
Yeah.
So they're showing flat roofs there, but Councillor Ridge is concerned about that, but they can be structurally built to hold a snow load with a flat roof.
Which one's the Earthright one?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so this one isn't flat, it is sloped. It's like this one like this.
Hmm.
There's a couple examples.
And there were.
Oh, yeah, okay, it is slightly sloped, but it doesn't have a pitch to get rid of snow though.
But certainly it's something that could be changed, right?
Rainwater mainly. Yeah. And the ES 1200 in Earthright, that's either stackable, side by side duplex, which is still small in scale, but could fit in some of our Tree Street's backyard sort of thing. With, slight modifications for setbacks. But, and they look affordable to me, I think.
I missed one of them, sorry. So I've got Adaptive, Eagle and Earthright.
And the Skinny Vancouver.
And this, okay, I think that was.
Call it.
Vancouver, the Vancouver Skinny House, this one?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I was thinking about, Councillor Rich was, if we could take all these and put them onto a table that shows what are their royalties for using a drawing? How much would it cost to have the rights to use the drawings for construction, like get the design rights? Some are 30,000, some are 500. So if we had on one table, all these 10 submissions to say, this is how much a square foot build would cost, 200 or 250, whatever it might be, column for that. A column for what are the royalties when you hand out a drawing at the front desk? How much do we have to pay the company to access the rights for the drawings? All in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I had started out that way and then there was some concerns about it not being in camera. So because of there's like some freedom of information issues. So I don't have that for this meeting. And the other thing, yes, absolutely. I think we should definitely look at what the costs are. I think it would be because there's the odd one that seems a little bit out of whack and it's almost like they didn't quite understand
They
something.
didn't follow.
And I think that there's an opportunity to talk to them and be like, hey, you know, we only want to buy one plan. We don't want to buy 6. We don't have a budget to buy 6 kind of thing. And see if they're still open to that before just, you know, completely waiving that particular applicant as an option. So what I was thinking is that maybe we find out kind of which ones people like first. And then kind of relook at what the offers are. Because there actually there's a really good proposal in there where one is like, you know, we'll give you this many plans. I think it was 5 for this much. But the first 3 uses of each plan, we will not charge a royalty. So we wouldn't have to come up with the money to try to, for a pilot program, to try to get some built. So there was some in the community, right? To get the interest going. That was like a really good offer. I don't remember specifically which one it was.
Some royalties were 500, some were 1,500 sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Some packages were 3,500, some were 25,000.
And I think
Had
there's
that on
an
the
opportunity
table.
for conversation where it's like, look, royalty no more than 1,000, but we'll give you this much more for the plans or something. Right? And see how it goes. Like if the negotiation doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Through the chair. The other thing I'd like to see too is, you know, we're talking about plan size and kind of what building and building material and step code. All of these are without foundation and DCCs and sewer and stuff like that. So, you know, if I do the 580 square foot, we need to figure out what square footage, you know, because if I do a 580 square foot flat build and my foundation is going to be $30,000, but I do the tall skinny and now my foundation is only $10,000. And I think that's something we need to include is what is the actual cost to start the project.
Yeah, so that was very related. Yeah, it was a conversation that was had because there's these extra sort of costs to this, right? So I did have a conversation with a few of them where basically, so with architects, normally they'd have to stamp the drawings for every single use, which can be where the royalty comes from. But a way to get around that is that the foundation would just have to be signed off by an engineer. So hypothetically, we decide on which plans we're buying, and then we also purchase the foundation plan to go with it. So whether it's on crawl or slab, we have both options, and then we can have sort of a general price. The thing is it's hard to give someone a material cost because they change so much. Do you know what I mean? But we can already have those plans ready to go that could go with the entire package. And then for them, it's materials cost, right? So they get plans that are basically free. They just need to do a permit for siting, for building permit. So we know it's in the right spot and they got parking. And this could be issued really quickly because the plans and the foundation would already have been reviewed and signed off by our building inspector. And then when you start talking about, so going from talking about the foundation into costs for development cost charges or property taxes. So currently we don't actually charge development cost charges for secondary dwellings. So it's kind of a moot point in that sense. Other places do, which is why it comes up, right? But there is property taxes. So
You would have to tap
On
into
that-
water, like there's a cost.
Yeah, services. Yeah.
but that can be done inside the site. You don't necessarily need to get a whole new service.
Okay, Siobhan,
Tap into.
Yeah.
That was not good of one.
Siobhan, I mean.
Through the chair, what I would like is, and we can put, you know, whatever month it is, August 2023. So if I'm making a decision or a vote as a council person or as a housing committee person or whatever, I want, as of today, start to finish, and it's going to be a guesstimate cost and it depends on my beams and stuff. But if I'm doing a level 3 and I'm doing a 532 square foot unit in the tree streets, it's going to be whatever, $300,000 to $500,000 to put this in when I start to finish. And I think we have to have that before we look at plans, because, or as we make our decisions on the plans, because that's like, people are going to base it on their whole costs. Even if you've got $1 gazillion, you are still going to ask, what is this, what am I looking at before I start?
Yep, absolutely.
So
We can
I think we,
do that.
and we can say, you know, this is 2003 material. And just like DCCs are hooking up the sewer, everything, housing costs are going to change continuously. But we do need some kind of base level for a package.
What do you think is an appropriate base level?
I have no idea. I've never built a house.
I'm just thinking that to lock up. Because to lock up gets you all your basics and then your finishes are what you choose. And you can choose from,
Yeah.
you know, $5 a square foot for flooring, you can choose up to $10 a square foot for flooring. That's now up to you, right? So here's the range on your finishes, right? But to lock up means you've got your doors and your windows and, you know, all that done. And that might be an interesting way to approach it. So then people know that they can actually, because they can go in and finish it themselves once all the,
Or leave plywood on the floor.
well, right, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
They could.
they could, but yeah.
Okay, so this is what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. We basically want to figure out what is an attainable value all in. And we're not talking fancy, but just safe, warm,
Mhm.
comfortable space that is livable, doesn't necessarily have fancy tile or anything like that. Maybe it's got vinyl and formica, right? Figure out what all in project complete would be, and then design something back from there, taking out all the other costs, the other overhead costs that may or may not be involved. So other costs that could be incurred through the building process that the district might charge or not charge, depending on where council lands with incentives, right? Am I hearing that right?
Through the chair. No,
Yes.
that's actually not what I like that, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what I would like, so if I've got, you know, the Eagle plan for 580 square feet, and then I've got, say, another one for 1,000 square feet. What is it going to be if I build up? What's it going to cost me? If I build flat, what's it going to cost me? So these had some of them had prices on them, kind of, you know, $125,000 up, but without foundation and without that. So when we make decisions on the 10 plans we have, you know, if I've got a bigger foundation, it's going to cost me more money, right? So that's more what I'm looking for is kind of like the whole package in today's standard. So if I hire someone to put this in, and that can be to lock up, I'm not saying that has to be your tiles,
Yeah.
but to lock up, let's say, what am I looking at, right? Because I'm not looking at $125,000. I'm looking at $125,000 plus, right? Foundation and sewer and yada, yada, yada. So what are those costs? Because I don't know those, right? And I don't think the you know, average Joe knows that. The bill, like, you know, if we had Bayview in here, he probably could tell me that, but I think that's really important. Like even square footage on a foundation is going to change depending on the plans we pick. So that's kind of what I'm
We can have the plans designed for that. That's kind of where I'm thinking there's like a ceiling. There's a ceiling.
Right.
And it's because we can ask for them to be designed however we want. We set the parameters, right? So, and one of those is cost. So the initial, you know, in the EOI, we were like, you know, $200, $250 a square foot needs to stay within that. Has to still be step code 3 and smaller. We put smaller footprints if floor areas in there, understanding that materials and labor are really high. So then the ask was that despite the fact that these are smaller footprints initially, they should be, the floor plans should be suitable for someone to do additions later to make them bigger as they can afford to do an addition. So I think, yeah, we'll have to see how it comes out, and there's going to be opportunities for back and forth. Like, I think you're going to end up with like 2 or 3 really good options where you're just tweaking it in terms of the final sort of price that might be. Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
I think each one of these guys can provide that number for us.
Yeah.
Right. And as far as foundation,
Real cost.
Yeah.
Then when we can just take that to Home Hardware and they can give us the cost of all.
because on a foundation too, if you're going wider for a bungalow or you go up, now your footings and everything, that may change. So your costs may, you know, the concrete may not be maybe more cost effective per square foot, but then you've got the other infrastructure to think of because you're going up. So now you got weight load and all that stuff. So
It does change things, yeah.
it does change things.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if we found a floor plan that was flexible enough.
Okay.
It could be put over a garage or it could just not be.
Right.
Then you're not dealing with that difference in foundation for load.
Malcolm, you have a question?
Well, sir, I guess, yeah. Still back to the spreadsheet thing, if we had all 10 of these on a spreadsheet, it showed the cost per square foot on each unit. And like some of these, like earthworks got 3 or 4 examples. So there'd be. For earthworks, there'd be 3 in the spreadsheet sort of thing. But yeah, what are the royalties when you pick up a plan at the front desk? What does it cost us to buy the package and how much is a minimum package, like 5 or 10 drawings or stuff like that?
I think that's where the difference is going to be, is the cost to buy the package. So royalties, what I would say
They
is
varied
no
from
more than
$500 to
$1,000.
$1,500 royalties.
Yeah. And then from there, if they're, you know, if they're losing money on royalties, if they're not taking it in royalties, it's gonna have to come out of the package, right? I think that's gonna be the real distinguishing feature in the end.
But try to get apples to apples as much as possible on a spreadsheet for royalties, cost per square foot, how much we have to pay for the package and how big is that package? Is it 10 drawings or 5? So at a glance, council can see what the costs are on each individual unit.
How many drawings do we think we need or want?
Well, like earthworks, they have, 3 good examples of that duplex that you can stack side by side, and then the 6,400. I think, to me, in my opinion, it's worth looking at all 3 of those. And Eagle Valley Homes, I mean, they could easily price out what's cost per foundation for that and the square footage for cost and how much it costs. Well, we wouldn't have drawings for this because this would be
Yeah, the Eagle Valley is different. We can't plans or anything like that. We
it'd be built offsite and brought in.
promoting, selling, doing sales,
Right.
like it's not actually,
Yeah.
it's not really the same thing.
But the cost of the house would show, you could work backwards and show what this cost per square footage is in those, even though.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's definitely a value to the end user for sure, where they can look at, oh, this is what it would cost to buy an locally versus building this myself. Kind of thing.
Just my opinion. And I don't think this committee should narrow it down. I think the
Yeah.
whole package
Mhm.
within the company spreadsheet should go to council. I don't know the process, if you think it should go to planning department first or committee to whole first and then council. I don't know how it gets to council, but I think this is the decision for all of council to narrow it down from 10 to 3 or 4 companies, maybe 3 companies. In my opinion.
And or do we, because it's carriage houses, secondary dwellings, do we keep it? Is it wiser or advisable to keep it to under 900 square feet and everything else is off the table?
Being it under 600 square feet.
You get under 600. So we've got one that's 1,200. So the footprint is 600 square feet because it's 2-story. So is that, what does that do? Like say, for example, the Earthright ES 1200.
I don't have costs, unfortunately. I did ask for costs for that whole unit and
No, but is it feasible? Is it feasible though to do that on a lot? Are you allowing a 2-story, 1,200 square feet on as a carriage house or as a secondary dwelling? No?
no.
Okay,
So the existing houses in our neighborhood,
yeah,
most of them are not big enough to do even a 900 square foot, right? So the 2-story houses with basements could do like a 960 square foot, perhaps.
so 450 on each, like a 450 on each floor.
If they wanted to stack it, if they needed to
Right.
stack it. I don't know if that's practical. I don't know that you need to.
I don't know.
Got a lot of space.
But if you're doing a garage with a something over it, then that makes sense. And, but do you count, the
No, we don't,
So,
we don't.
okay, you don't count the, so does it make sense then to eliminate a bunch of these just because of the square footage?
Well, these are just examples of what these guys can,
Right. Okay.
it's more, right? So it's figuring out, whose style do the public like? So it's worth doing some engagement to find out kind of what the public likes. Ultimately, council can pick which ones we talk to, because we do have to open up a conversation and have a discussion that's more detailed, right? Before ultimately selecting who and what design.
Well, I think,
But it's hard to nail down things like
Right.
prices.
so maybe four different, absolute different designs makes more sense to take the council overall. So it's like, now we've got a variety as well for the community.
I think,
That still fit within the community, like,
I think what I'm hearing is, number one, take all the proponents to council. Number two, there is some potential here for the housing committee to make some recommendations. Having been working on housing and understanding, the limitations of our properties pretty well, like this is like, you're a focused team, this is your specialty, you're specialized in this regard. You could make a recommendation to council about which ones, and it's up to council to consider that recommendation and do what they decide to do, right? You're not taking away council's opportunity to choose what they want.
correct. Right. Because there are a lot of different varieties and styles of homes in our community. Like so having it, giving that option where you've got different styles that suit different people's properties that's all I'm thinking. Yes, Malcolm?
Thank you. So just ballpark, like, I'm not good with the math, but if you got, most of the Tree Street lots are 0.23 of an acre, I think, roughly, generally speaking. So you've got a 0.23 of an acre lot with, let's say, a 1,500 square foot house on it, sitting on the one floor. What size secondary dwelling could you put on that lot?
Let me
Just
show you, I actually
high
have
level,
our website.
it's 0.23 roughly, say 1,500 is the average square foot of it.
Yep.
That is, like, we've been over to my friend's place, Ally's house. And that is exactly there. I think the one house is 1,800 square feet and the coach house is 480. The one, and I mean, it's the back house is quite, like, it's lovely.
Right. It's all about lot coverage, right?
Yeah.
That's. where
And
you've
there's
got to-
still, she's got 8 parking spots and on her property.
And yard too.
And she still has a yard and 2 patios. So I think that's very doable. I mean, for me, I just think we need, before we make any recommendations, I think we need some dollar figures on it. It's hard to recommend, like, if it's $1 million suite, I could like it, but I don't think that's feasible for Sycamoose. But I think we do, I don't think we just do this as the base model and here we can do this for, $250 a square foot. I think people need options, because there are people that want something a bit more fancier, cute in their backyard and that kind of thing. But I think we do need kind of a ballpark price on what everything is. Because it's hard to vote on something. It's like knowing the difference between a Kia and a Lexus. And until I know, what my starting price is, it's hard to vote on it. I might really like the Lexus, but
I can do up a table for you. It's not going to be representative at all, because what we're asking for is a cost of $200 to $250 a square foot.
Mhm.
So we're going to be comparing costs on something that's not what we're buying. I think it's the number of plans, like we have our budget isn't big, right? So, some of these, they want us to spend $26,000, but we don't have $26,000. So in the end, I'm confident we can get one set of plans this year. And next year, we can look at getting another set. So I can do that table for you, absolutely. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I think that would help. And we can go from there. So if you want to have another meeting, September. Or unless you want one sooner, our terms of reference allows us to do that. We could meet again and try to keep them short. They don't need to be long.
Yeah, okay. I would be, will you be available to meet again then in August?
August? Or September?
Or well, September?
August is.
I'm away for 2.5 weeks in September, so I prefer to be here, so if we could do it.
Which at the beginning or end?
Right, like the 8th to the 26th. There, now everyone listening to Zoom knows when I'm away. That's not good.
I think it's a big crowd. I'm just looking.
That's why I don't post stuff on Facebook. But no, I think if we can hone this in a little bit and get a little bit more information and yeah, the sooner the better. It's all fresh.
Mid-September, and I'm away the first
September
week.
18th to 23rd, we got UBCM.
Yeah, okay. So how about the last week of August? Like after you have a council meeting on the 23rd? Wednesday, the 23rd, that would make it the 30th? So the
That's a long weekend. That's a,
31st? Oh, is the Thursday before a long weekend? Is that bad?
Maybe a day or two before council, we can get something to council.
Ideally, at least the 24th. I mean, that's cutting it close for council.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry.
23rd is council.
23rd. No, so this, we could try to get it for the 13th. I do not have time to prep anything for next week for you.
Okay,
Yeah, that's pretty tight.
So this is the next meeting on the 13th of September. This is the deadline to get stuff on there, on the agenda. So, and you're saying this is a long weekend?
yeah, the 4th of September is the holiday Monday.
We could do it maybe the 6th or 7th. We'd be pushing it to get something on the agenda. But
I'm away.
You're away and I'm gone on the 8th, so well, let's do the 31st. What would be wrong with just before the long weekend?
Is that Friday?
Thursday, no, it's a Thursday. Like Thursday at 1 o'clock. Or Thursday, can we change the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Your terms of reference lets you do that.
So do we want to pick another day? Do you want to go the 29th earlier that week? Go Tuesday instead of the Thursday?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The 29th. or 30th.
Yeah.
That weekend is a nightmare for me and I.
Okay.
Thursday's it's gonna
Be crazy?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how are you for the 29th? Malcolm?
Yeah,
Yes?
pretty empty in my calendar.
Okay, do you want to stick with you? Shall we stick with the 1 o'clock then? Does that work good for you?
Stick with the 1 o'clock, and do you want to do the 29th because it's another tea day and it's easy to remember?
Yes, it's a Tuesday, Tuesday,
And you want to do it at 1 o'clock PM, sorry?
right? Tuesday, the 29th.
So we'll bring back the EOI stuff and have further information about it.
Now can the public, so for anybody who's listening
How many people are online?
today,
I think we've just got the one. And it's a staff person.
oh, okay.
Nobody online.
Should we, on your social media and like on the district platform, should there be more engagement, encouraging people to look at what's online prior to that meeting? And then if they,
I don't think so, because we're gonna want to do,
Okay.
I'm thinking that we're going to want to do some actual public engagement and we'll do some
Okay.
advertising around that.
all right, okay, cool.
But we're gonna talk to at least the committee of the whole first before we do that kind of engagement.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. Okay, so then are we moving on to implementation update? Please. Sarah.
So implementation update, just head back here. These are our short-term actions from our housing strategy. These are items that on from this list. Gonna move this here. So this is a little reminder. I'm sorry, folks, I don't know why this isn't advancing. There we go. So this was our list of items that we pulled out of there. Our quick and easy, low hanging fruit, as it were, try to make the biggest impact on housing stock that we could right away. So the ones that are still in the pink are the ones that we're still working on, that we've started. There's a couple on here that are checked off already. So one is updating the R1 zone to kind of further build out our secondary dwelling program. The other is to update our official community plan to expand the areas where someone could then apply for a zoning amendment to do something like, say, a townhouse or fourplex. And then the other one is a development area to kind of go along with that, that would capture and speak better, like the language, update the language that speaks better to these sort of smaller density multifamily. So our development permit area we have currently talks to all those big developments on Riverside, bigger, like 100 units. We're talking about 4 to 6 units. So updating development permit area guidelines on that. So those are the ones that we're working on. And there'll be more on that in a minute. So in terms of grants and funding, we did submit an application to the Complete Communities Fund, and that was specifically to do an assessment of our infrastructure to see where we needed some upgrades to support even more, like more parcels potentially that would be developed. And that was to support land use planning around actually putting in a zone that would allow for things like townhouses. Because we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about doing an assessment, figuring out where it would be the best place to put this. The other one is Housing Accelerator Fund. So both of these did go to council back in June. So council supported our initiatives that were part of our action plan in principle. And so that's what we're working on right now. So that closes next week, Friday. And we're working on that right at this time. So we've got those 5 initiatives that went to council. And if we're successful, the funds that we receive from this application, we can use to actually spend on things like upgrading a sewer lift station, for example. And it's also, and those are decisions that council would make, like where we would actually put the money. And so there would be smaller amounts of money, the less significant amounts that would actually go into the initiatives themselves. So for example, our first initiative, as a reminder, was the secondary dwelling unit program to try to get the word out there, get a pilot program going so that people were starting to put them in. So part of that was our plan library. Another part of that is perhaps doing a loan program, working with a partner to manage that. So we would set aside some of those funds to help secure loans for people to be able to build one of these units. And that would be maybe for a maximum of 6 loans at a time. So as they were paid off, then someone else potentially would have access to a loan, maybe like $10,000. I don't know. These are all council level decisions. So those are an example of those initiatives. So more updates. So those amendment bylaws that I was just talking about, the R1 zone and the OCP amendment. So they've been through committee of the whole back in May. They went to council for first and second reading back in June. We did the public hearing July 26th, and council did decide to just wait on doing third reading until later. So that's on pause at the moment. And that's for both the R1 zone and that land use designation. So we'll probably see that hopefully in the fall, we'll see what happens. And then still to come, we do need to start moving the development permit area guidelines forward that would go along with that, the amendment. So that is the status on that. Any questions?
Malcolm?
I think you're doing a good job of keeping us on track, and I think it's a pretty aggressive schedule, and rightly so, because we're in a housing crisis. So I think we're making good headway.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Have we had anybody else apply for, like there was some applications for secondary suites and buildings and things like that. Has there been any action over the summer?
Yeah, so we did actually we've got a subdivision that's happening. It's in progress over on Rama Ave. So they're going to split that parcel in half, and they're going to build a duplex on each parcel. So, yeah, like once they apply for their building permits, we know for sure, but we've received the building plans and everything and had a look at them. They're up down duplexes. And the top part is actually an A277 that is engineered and constructed out of shipping containers. They're really pretty.
Nice. I looked, yes.
They look nice.
Okay.
And, you know, they won't need a development permit or anything for that, so it's not something that you would see come to council, but we could talk about it at the planning and development committee meeting, but it's only a building permit. You know what I mean? It's not, they won't need more than that, but they can't get started on that until their subdivision is actually finalized. So they do have a few things they need to do in terms of getting BC Hydro out to do the servicing, get in another pole. And they do need to add 2 more connections to the mains there, because each lot needs its own connections. I think that's about it. There wasn't a lot. Only a wildfire covenant. That's pretty standard for any subdivision in town. And it's mostly just about, it's like, yeah, we agree and we know we need to follow fire smart principles in terms of managing their vegetation on the property. Yeah, so that one's happening. Let me think. We did issue, I think, 5 permits for secondary dwellings. So those have actually been issued, and I have been seeing some progress. There's one near where I live and it's getting ready for siding. So that was a garage conversion into a coach house. They are moving along for sure.
Excellent. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, and I have asked that the monthly building permit report include a section specifically for secondary dwellings, so we can see that.
Nice.
Good idea.
Good idea. Okay. All right, seminars and conferences. Anybody been to anything exciting? No? Yes.
Well, I was at the meeting for the CSRD yesterday.
Oh,
with,
yes.
With the Hyde Resort Living. And he said that will be going to 3rd reading in October. And one of the things that the Hydes are planning are 58. There's 102 units going in, and there's like RVs and cabins, but there will be 58 permanent full-term living spaces. And they are actually doing them, like they're doing teeny homes, they're doing some container stuff. They've got kind of different things. So they're not RV living sites. They will actually be either stick built or dropped in. And they are trying to do it as a co-op. So it won't be strata. It will actually be in a co-op style. So you buy in, but you don't have to you know, be in a strata per se. It's going to be managed, and they're going to do with the long-term living. They will run their own rental, and there will be no short-term rentals in those 58 units. And so it's actually online. I think I sent it to everybody here.
Yeah.
It's actually really well worth reading through it and the way they're doing. I went and walked it and stuff, and it's actually going to be a pretty cool development. They're putting in their own water system, their own sewer system, talking about putting in their own biothermal.
Nice.
So really worth taking a look at. And if, you know, it's outside of path, but it will absolutely provide homes for people that are part of Sycamores, you know, and kids to school and stuff. And but the kind of micro homes, but they will be built, you know, so families can live in them, but affordable. So neat concept to look at. Like it may be something that we go, that's kind of neat. And again, maybe there's some plans there, right? That because they're doing all these, they have different styles, right? To put in. So it's neat.
That sounds really cool.
That does. I'll go through it.
Yeah.
So next steps in future meetings.
I actually do have some seminar and conference updates.
Okay.
So Jeremy and I sat in on the Pipes and Wires webinar from the Gentle Density Network. And that was a workshop where they want your planning and your engineering, 1 rep from each to attend. And what the conversation was about how to service gentle infill. So additional homes being built. And this is largely triggered by the province is planning to bring this in September. Doesn't matter what our zoning says, people are gonna be able to build row houses and townhouses, like 3 to 4, and in some cases 6, depending on servicing. In some areas, yeah, it's a big deal. So that was really interesting. So we learned a lot from BC Hydro about what they're doing, because so they've hired a whole bunch of new staff to try to speed this up. So this is like a big thing. When people are subdividing or they're building, they have to wait a really long time to get power hooked up to their site. So they've expanded their staff. And the other big issue is their service. They need to have the capacity to service us. Not just us, all communities in BC. So at the same time that this is happening, this density increase, the federal government is trying to meet all these climate goals and is requiring, like they've got these very, for example, with vehicles, very short timelines for getting people into electric cars. So there's this conversation about, where do you plug these in? Everybody's going to be plugging them in at home because there's going to be so many, and that's going to increase the demand on the system. So it was very interesting. This whole presentation about how their system works. And yeah, that's the only update I have on that for now, but there will be further meetings, and we're hoping to hear more about different ways that projects can be serviced to make it a little more affordable, just maybe non-traditional ways potentially of doing it. So anyway, that's something that I went to. The other one was the community energy efficiency webinar. So I actually attended that with Councillor Beach. And that was really interesting, and it actually has implications for housing. So what it is it was a workshop for staff and any councillors, I guess, to sort of identify challenges and opportunities as part of the preparation of a plan for Sicamous to start, getting our energy emissions kind of under control as a community. And this has to do with federal climate action goals. And this does tie in with housing because this is something that's happening at the federal level. This is a requirement of a lot of the grant applications where it's like, it's not just demonstrating how we're going to meet our housing gaps or, provide more housing. We also have to demonstrate how those actions are going to contribute to becoming a complete community where people have the options to walk somewhere, meaning that they don't have to drive a vehicle and expend, energy that isn't maybe good energy to be expending in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, that kind of thing. So I just thought I would share that. And it's an ongoing project too. There will be further with Chris.
Well, thank you for sharing. So our future meetings, do we call this meeting on Tuesday, August the 29th, is that like a regularly scheduled meeting, or do we call it
Another special meeting?
another special meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I would just amend that in our agenda, our next special scheduled meeting
Will be
held on Tuesday, August the 29th, 2023. And anything else to comment or questions on? Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. You did a great job. And so now I make a motion to adjourn the meeting, Housing Committee meeting at 1:05 p.m. But 2:05 p.m. Okay. 2:05 p.m. We're quick, eh?